All right, guys, welcome back into the 85. I'm your host, Cole Kmet. We are back on a Tuesday following a tough loss to the Colts, which we will get into shortly here. But first, I want to tell you guys to please keep checking out that merch. We got a lot of cool stuff up there. A lot of cool golf attire, hats, T-shirts, polos, all those type of things. So please go check out the 85 collection. A lot of cool stuff there, and I appreciate all of you guys' continued support throughout the channel. It's been a lot of fun so far, and want to keep you in tune throughout the season. So, Adam, how are we doing there?
You know what? I gotta say, I'm actually I'm feeling optimistic on this Tuesday. So we can get into that a little bit. I spent a lot of time watching the film yesterday, and I know you guys would rather be 2-1 than 1-2. But I think there's some good things to talk about today. By the way, the link people should go to for the 85 collection is store.allcitynetwork.com. You'll actually see all of our apparel across CHGO and all of our awesome networks. There's some cool stuff in there. Store.allcitynetwork.com, but that's where the 85 collection is. And as always, the 85 is powered by Ankin Law. Injury law made personal. They're here to help. Visit ankinlaw.com to learn more.
Yeah, so getting into the game, obviously a tough loss there. Not the showing that we wanted to have this past Sunday. Give credit to the Colts. They kept fighting us, and they were end up with the victory there. Starting with myself, I got to be better there late in the game with the pass pro deal. I just can't let that happen late in the game, and really just simply got beat. And everyone else in that moment's doing their job, and I'm the only guy on that play that's not doing theirs, and it ends up with the strip sack and a big game-changing play for them, especially when we had just kind of captured momentum on that previous drive. So I put that on myself there. I got to be a lot better there, and as one of the leaders and captains of this team, I got to be on it at all times. And obviously football is football, and things happen, and they have good players as well too. But in those moments, you got to be locked in, and you got to execute when your number's called and when those moments are needed. So got to be better there for sure. And obviously looking at the game totality, we had a lot of opportunities to put points up on the board early in the game. Obviously towards the end of half there, we got to be better about punching that ball in, especially with goal to go. And going into half there with points would have been huge. And obviously with the first play of the half coming back in the third quarter, Jalen with the interception, and us having to get points there, like it would have been a big opportunity for us. So just a lot of missed opportunities offensively, especially for the first three quarters. We felt a good uptick there and gotten into a good rhythm, and Caleb was playing really well in that fourth quarter stretch, and we were able to convert some really big third downs. So there were some good positives to take from the game as well. And I thought you saw Rome really take off, and you could show off his athleticism and his skill set in the pass game, and that was really cool to see. And but offensively, we still got to get better in the run game. If we want to win more of these games, we got to be able to take some of it off of the quarterback, and not have to have him drop back 55 times in a game, and be able to run the ball a lot better. That being said, we did run 92 plays in that game, and a lot of us are feeling that today. So but looking at the defense, obviously they're still playing really well, and we got to just play better complementary football on the offensive side. So obviously a tough loss, a game that we feel like we should have won, a game that we feel like we had the better roster and all those things. But at the end of the day, that's the NFL, and the Colts ended up winning that one, and we got to take the positives, the negatives, and move on to it. And I think we all spent the first 24 hours after that game kind of in that sulk mode, but now it's time to move on and look forward to the LA Rams this week.
Cole, I have a couple questions about the strip sack play, and I know your self-accountability on that. I know fans appreciate hearing. I did notice on the film, so this is kind of like more of a technique thing question. Mm-hmm. Leatu Latu, talented first-round pick, first defensive player in the draft. He did kind of grab your pads, inside of your pads there for a second, just a little rip. Now, you're never going to get that call. I'm not trying to claim that or anything, but I'm assuming your answer will be something along the lines of with your technique, you got to do something to prevent him from being able to get that type of grab on you to even begin with? Because it's not like you were looking for a call or anything when that play was over.
No. Yeah, I think going into that, when I watched it on tape, I mean, obviously a tough watch. With that protection, you're trying to get a lot of double teams, which you're able to get. But sometimes with how the front works out, or how maybe a safety or a backer rocks down, a one-on-one can occur in that type of protection. So it ended up falling where I kind of had to take him initially. And I think it always starts with a get off, and I had a bad get off on the snap count there, and really that prevented me from really selling the run because it was a play fake. And when that happens, you kind of get on your heels. I was a little lateral in terms of my footwork there, so that needs to be better. And if I'm able to engage with them early and at least stun them at the line of scrimmage, at least it sells that run for a split second. And even if he beats me late around the edge, you would hope by then that the ball is already out, and it just buys Caleb an extra half second there, which would have probably been enough for him to get the ball out. So that's where I can be better there. I mean, obviously the kid is there's a reason he's a first round pick, and give credit to him for winning that rep. And I thought it was a good move on his end. It showed a lot of strength and versatility to be able to go inside and redirect back out, loop out, and make a play like that. But that being said, like, I can be much better. I've made that block plenty of times in this league, and I just got to be better. And I was really disappointed with myself in that moment. And despite all the other plays that I had, and I felt like I played a good game outside of that one snap. It just shows you that you have to be dialed in every snap, and really that one play can change the game. And I'm never one to, regardless if it was me or somebody else, to say that one play lost the game, but I'll tell you, it sure does feel like that in that moment when something like that happens. And it's tough, but it's definitely not something that I'm going to be sulking over here. It's something that you got to learn from and move on and do your best to never let that happen again.
Well, let's talk about some of the good. 10 catches on 11 targets, 97 yards. You did get that touchdown. What did you feel like was working, or why did the ball start coming your way more? Because the first couple weeks, it wasn't as many targets, and then obviously, to get 10 catches, almost 100 yards and a touchdown. I mean, you would take that every week.
Yeah, I mean, I think starting off early, kind of getting that third down call, it's a play that really I'm the first read on. And, so Shane's calling my number there to get open. And that kind of just gets you in the flow of the game. Obviously a big third down conversion there to start the game, keep the chains moving. So that always kind of gets you going and gets you rolling in there. And I think that gives Caleb confidence as well. And, but I mean, really you got to give credit, for all the catches I had and all that stuff to Caleb. And in terms of being on time, being in rhythm, I felt like we were in really good sync throughout the day. And whether it was me presenting and sitting in zone or having to win a man matchup, I thought there was just good rhythm and timing between us two there, which was obviously very encouraging to see, and hopefully something that we can continue to grow on. So, I mean, it's weird. I mean, especially at my position, I feel like at times it is somewhat game plan dependent. If it's, we need help in more protection, like obviously I'm going to be being in protection more in terms of doing chip blocks and all that stuff to help our tackles out. And you might not get on as many routes, and then you play games like the other day where it unfolds the way it does, where maybe you get down by a couple scores there going in the fourth quarter, and you got to pass it a little bit more, and they leave some things open in the middle of the field that we were able to expose, and so that was really good to see. And I was definitely happy about the production in the pass game, and I think we took obviously a big step up there. I don't know if I've been a part of a game with that many pass yards in a game. So that was cool to see, obviously. But again, we got to be better in terms of finishing the drives in the end zone. We had a lot of long drives. I mean, really to start the game and throughout the game, we had a lot of long drives there, and we just got to do a better job of capitalizing and turning those things into points.
No home run celebration though on the touchdown. I was
that was a combo.
I couldn't help but notice that.
I know my mom asked me about that too, because she was like, the fans love that. Like, I don't know why you didn't do that. It was a combo of a couple of things. One, my ribs were a little bit on fire from earlier in the game from getting hit. I don't know if anybody saw at the end of the half where I'm like hunched over right when we're about to spike it. So ribs were a little bit on fire there. And then obviously being down a couple scores and having the mistake I had earlier on, wasn't necessarily like looking to do that. But maybe that's on me for not showing enough emotion, and I can kind of move on quicker from that play prior.
No, I appreciate. Honestly, I knew right in the moment. I'm like, well, you're probably thinking, look, you're down a couple scores. You still. It had not, up to that point was certainly not probably an offensive performance as a team. You guys are looking to have some big celebration over. So I can definitely appreciate that in that moment, because we've seen other celebrations around the league go terribly wrong when a team's getting blown out. And you guys obviously weren't certainly getting blown out or anything, but
it's definitely a feel thing. It's definitely a feel thing. You know what I mean? So in that moment, definitely not the right feel to go on it with a crazy celebration.
Yeah, and I can feel you too from the baseball days. When anything you got going on in the midsection, you don't want to be swinging a baseball bat.
Heck no. It's brutal.
That was quite a shot you took from EJ Speed, who has one of the cooler names in the league, by the way. And I did, even in the moment, what's that? How do you process that? Because you could stay down there, and I guess you force a timeout. You would have to call a timeout, I think, to avoid a 10-second runoff, I want to say. But is the safer thing to do just get up and do whatever you can to execute the spike?
Well, this is where I think coaching comes into play, and Flus does a really good job with the situations throughout camp and throughout the preseason, and obviously in a game week we go over certain situations. But I don't know. I don't want to speak completely wrong about what the rule is, but I do think there would be a runoff or a forced. I don't know if we had the timeout or what it was at that point. Yeah. So I mean, when you get down, there's a difference between being hurt and being injured, and in that moment I'm hurt. Injured is something where you cannot get up at all, and I don't want to mention what that could be, but like something really catastrophic. So in that moment I'm hurting, and I'm hurting bad. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. My ribs were on fire there, but I knew that it was coming down to the end of the half. And in that situation, before the play, I'm looking up and I think we had 10, 11 seconds left. So I'm thinking, all right, looks like the defense is going to be kind of more of in a prevent mode. I'm most likely getting the ball in this situation based on the route concept that we had on. So when I'm turning, Caleb sees it, they sink. And now I'm thinking, all right, I'm from where I am on the field when I'm inside the numbers, I'm not going to be able to get to the sideline to get out of bounds. So what I'm thinking now is, I'm going to try and make a guy miss here and there, just punch it forward for as many yards as we can, get down, and then I'm thinking, all right, we're probably going to be spiking it, or we're going one last play. So I get down. I think it was a third down there, and obviously the clock was ticking, and I just knew, okay, I'm off the ball here, and we're gonna spike this thing and probably do a Hail Mary. So I just knew I had to get to the spike, and then I was going to the sideline. So it worked out well enough where I was able to get up enough where I was able to line up in a legal formation. We got the spike off, and then obviously the Hail Mary there, which really stinks that we weren't able to get that in. I mean, I think that's happened a couple times with Chicago. What, the Patriots game that one time?
Yeah, you're thinking about the Kevin White play at the end of the game, where
so
he catches it at the one.
Yeah, it's just brutal. I mean, that would have been nice to have some points there going in a half like that, but it is what it is.
Yeah, well, gutsy to get up and get in the right spot to get that spike off, because it was bang bang. In fact, I was surprised that there was still a second left on the clock. To be able to run the Hail Mary. So now we do have to talk about another play. Why did you jump off sides on that punt return? Because that was pretty ridiculous.
See, I didn't know about this until you brought this up when I was just coming to the lobby here. That's hilarious. I didn't know that this was a thing.
Yeah, so because you didn't even know this happened. So the whoever it was that jumped off sides on the punt return, this happened a few times in this game. And my dad texted me in the middle of this game, and I think this actually should be a rule. If the refs can't get the correct number on the penalty, then the penalty shouldn't count.
Obviously you didn't see it correctly enough, right? I mean,
so they call it on 85, and then the game was on CBS. CBS actually ISOs you on camera, and you're sitting on the bench. It was like,
really?
Well, first of all, we know you're not on the field on the punt return anyway, but the fact that they actually showed you too, they're like, yep, there's the guy that screwed up the play. Wait a minute, he's not even on the field. So how does any of this add up?
Fox went along with it. Like they They were
apparently.
like, "Oh, Cole Kmet had the penalty there."
Yeah, I think don't worry. I'm pretty sure they corrected it in the box score. You're not actually going to get charged
Oh,
with a
okay, good,
penalty
good. Yeah,
officially.
that's good.
But it
Okay.
was a we can keep some levity here on what was otherwise not a great moment in the game. But yeah, it's funny that you didn't even. I always wonder sometimes during the game. People ask me like, what, would you even notice this is going on? You guys are so laser focused on what's going on in front of
Yeah,
you
I
that
don't.
like you don't even hear over the loudspeaker. And by the way, that was our old friend JJ Stankovich that probably would have announced that over the loudspeaker at Lucas Oil Stadium, that the penalty was on you. He's just following orders. It's not his fault. But you don't even hear that, huh?
No, I don't hear any of that stuff. Kind of funny. Like, there's been games where I feel like I'm the one that jumped off sides or something because the play gets like it just kind of felt out of sorts with the cadence maybe or whatever, and the play gets bone dead, and you're like, oh, that was for sure on me, and then you get to the film room the next day thinking that it's on you, and then you see somebody else's number written down, and I was like, oh shoot. Okay, I had no idea like that wasn't on me. And then there's plays where you get called for something, and honestly, you had no idea that it was even called on you.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Again, I'm going to propose that to Roger Goodell. If you can't get the number right, then the penalty gets canceled out. I wanted to bring up, by the way, Khari Blasingame coming up here on the show today, and looking forward to that conversation that you had with him. But you had a quote yesterday I want to bring up. You spoke to the media because we should get into some Caleb conversation here as well. But you said it hasn't been good enough, but I don't think it's an all hope is lost situation. There's a real opportunity there to get this thing going quickly. And once it does, I don't think we'll look back. But we've got to get there first. Can you go into a little bit more detail about, kind of where your mindset is right now? Because the reality is, you did move the ball a lot on Sunday. Caleb Williams, for about 3 hours on Sunday, actually had the most passing yards of any quarterback in the league in a single game until Dak Prescott passed him later in the afternoon. So it was kind of a crazy stat that for 3 hours there, Caleb Williams had actually had the highest passing yards in any football game played so far through week 3, and he's still up there at number 2 right now. Unless Josh Allen passed him last night, I'm not sure what he finished with. Anyway, that doesn't matter. The point is, you guys did move the football. It's all about getting in the end zone, and it seems like you feel like you are pretty close to getting a little bit more efficiency here and putting more points on the board.
Yeah, well, I think first, and obviously we've been talking about this for the past couple of weeks, it does start with the run game. And I thought we had some good chunks there early in the game to start. We can still be we need to be much better in the run game than we have been. And I do think when I watch the film, like there's some things that we're close on that can pop. And, we need to be able to turn some of the 6-7 yard carries into those 12 to 15 yard carries where you just get a couple of those in a game, and those really kind of change the outlook on your run game if you're able to get a few of those in a game. So I think we're close to getting those, and we just got to stay at it, and it does start with the run game in that regard. I think there was a lot of positives. I mean, obviously in the pass game, and I know you never want to have to ask a rookie quarterback or really any quarterback to have to throw it 55 times in a game or be in that situation. But like I said at the start of the show, we did run 92 plays. Like there was a lot of plays at hand. And I think that means that we were holding on the ball. We were being efficient with the ball. I thought we did pretty well on third downs for the most part. I think we were just below our percentage goal there, but we were converting on a lot of third downs, which was really good to see. I know we were stalling out there in the red area to begin with, but as we got, later in the game, you saw the execution there, obviously from Caleb in the red zone, being able to read things out and, made a great throw and Rome with a great route there for the first one. And then obviously I was just left scotch-free there at the end, but Caleb, continued to read that out and found me in the flat. So I think there's a lot of positives there. I think it's definitely tough because it's a team that I feel like right now that we have a lot of talent, especially when I look back to 2 years ago when all these guys got here, that this is a completely different team with a ton of talent. So it is a little frustrating, and we're frustrated too because we know we're better than what our record shows right now in terms of from a talent perspective. But it's really just about putting it all together, and offensively we're figuring it out. And you'd like to have these things all ironed out prior to week 1. But the reality is, and I've said this multiple times, is just you don't know really where things are at until week 1 because you're just not getting those type of looks in the preseason and in camp. And I know there's a lot of stock that goes into what happens during those time periods at those moments. But there's just only so much you can take from it, and it's more about learning and installing your offense and kind of growing fundamentally from that standpoint. But I think we've taken, and I'm saying offensively, we've taken steps each week. And look, they're not as fast as they need to be, but I think we're getting there. And like I said, when I think this thing pops and we start feeling who we really are as an offense, I don't think we'll look back from it.
Well, speaking of popping, I wanted to show. We can't show video on the show, but we have a couple screenshots we wanted to bring up because I tweeted out this play this morning that Caleb got to you where he made sort of an insane move to even get out of pressure, roll out to his left. That first one's frozen, that sort of jump man type of throw. I feel like we saw that at least one of those every day in training camp. And you can kind of see this here on this photo too.
Mm-hmm.
What's it like being on the receiving end of that? Because, going back to that first screenshot we had up there, I think most people, first of all, you can barely even see you. Your legs are at the top of that. That's you.
Sure.
And there's an underneath defender there. There's another defender on top of you too. And it's just like, how, if people could see how much of a laser throw that was to even get it there, what's that like as you're sitting there kind of finding that open space in the zone? And you're like, is there any way he's going to be able to get this football to me?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's exciting when someone makes a throw like that, and you can just kind of find the void and he'll find you. So, on that play, obviously Caleb does a really good job. That end just kind of rushes way upfield there, and they were kind of playing those type of rush lanes all day, which makes it tough for those type of movement passes. But Caleb, obviously crazy athletic and has crazy athleticism, is able to get out of that. And then I was coming across on a route there, and saw he got kind of held up. Didn't really see the full deal of that, but I see him escape it. And there was a couple of defenders outside of me to the right. So I kind of just shut down my route and felt the void area and was just kind of hoping that he'd see it and rip it. And sure enough, he did. So that was a really cool moment there to kind of have that connection. And, I think we can hopefully continue to build off that along with the other receivers as well. But those are the moments of hey, that's why he's the number 1 overall pick right there. So that's why you take him at number 1 and why he's who he is. So, definitely want to see more of those plays as the year goes on. You don't want to ask him to have to make those plays all the time, but it's cool to know that when a situation like that comes up and he's got to make a play on a defender and then rip a ball downfield across his body like that, that you got a guy that can do that. So that's pretty cool to see.
Maybe it was just the angle too from that back end zone angle, but I swear the ball curved too. It went like this and somehow curved around the defender right to you.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. His T-spine mobility's got to be nuts. I always tell him he's got to get into golf because I think he'd be really good at it if he just committed a year to it of just practicing a swing, because his upper body mobility is just absolutely ridiculous.
I think that goes for all of us. If we actually committed a year.
You say that, but you don't know that. You don't know that.
Yeah, but at least I could go from the mid 90s, I feel into the 80s if I played more. Played more.
Yeah.
I'm in that stage of life though when you have kids and all this stuff. There's just,
You got other shit going on. I don't blame you.
Well, I got my 10-year-old playing golf though. That's my excuse to get on the golf. That's life hack, by the way, to dads.
That's smart. That's smart. I like that.
That's your excuse to get out there. All right. You had an interview with Khari Blasingame that we got to get to. Tell us a little bit about why you wanted to talk to Khari, who's actually missed the last couple of days or games, I should say, with injuries. But part of the reason why you wanted to bring Khari on the show.
Yeah, well, Khari, I think, just brings a good perspective of NFL life, and obviously being in Tennessee and now here, seen a lot of different things, and I think the fullback position is so unique nowadays. Some teams have them, some teams don't. So I think it's just a good perspective for the fans to hear from, and in terms of playing fullback in this league and what goes into that week in and week out, his responsibilities on special teams and, how he's gotten to this point in his career thus far. So cool interview here with Khari Blasingame. Hope you guys enjoy it. All right, well, welcome in Khari Blasingame into the podcast. I know that we've talked about doing this for a little bit. Glad that we could get you on. Know you've had a few things to deal with, but where does the podcast find you on today's off day?
Man, good. Chilling, man. Got my daughters at school. So got some downtime, just kicking it, man. Just relaxing, getting ready for the week.
That's good stuff, man. Well, I think it's good to have. I've been having a bunch of guys on, and it's kind of fun, I think, for the fans to hear the perspective from our side of things. So I always think it's good to get guys. We've had Rome, DJ, and Cairo, now yourself. So a bunch of different guys, and I know obviously you play a very unique position of fullback, and really it's kind of I don't want to say it's a dying position, but it's not as prevalent maybe as it was, 20, 30 years ago where, teams are running like the wing T and you could have 2 or 3 fullbacks in. But
Right.
kind of wanted to see like where a fullback came to be for you. I'm sure you didn't grow up thinking that you're going to be playing fullback in the NFL, or maybe you did, but just kind of want to hear like what, maybe going back to college, like how your game, really transformed to you becoming now a fullback in the NFL.
Yeah, man. So when I went to college, I played free safety. So I played safety and running back, quarterback a little bit in high school. So I got recruited as a free safety to Vanderbilt. So I was probably about 6 foot, 195, 200. And so I knew I was a bigger safety at that time. I thought I was going to be like a LaRon Landry, Eric Reed type safety, downhill hitter. But when I got to college, it started, growing. My body started growing, was dieting to stay at like 215, 216. And so my coach was just like, hey, look, we got some depth problems in the linebacker room. We think you can help us there. It'd be an easy way for you to get on the field. So I moved to linebacker, played my redshirt freshman year at linebacker, played a whole bunch of special teams. And then that next year had depth problems in the running back room. And he was like, look, we got 2 guys that, really balling at linebacker. You're the 3rd or 4th linebacker. We know you can get on the field at running back. And so when I moved it was my 3rd year in school, my 2nd year on the field. It just happened to work out really well at running back. So played for the next 3 years at running back and moving to the league, got an agent, was talking to him. He was like, I think your best deal will be, becoming a versatile fullback. You're already a bigger back, this and that. Had a workout with Belichick in Nashville. And, he said the same thing. So I was just following the signs and I was like, all right, bet. It's going to be my best bet in the NFL. And so I actually signed with Minnesota coming out undrafted, had Coach Kennedy Palomalu. He was a coach for CJ Ham and Zach Line before him. So he really taught me how to play the position. And so I stayed there. I was on practice squad for the first 10 weeks of my rookie year. Then went down to Tennessee, and the rest is history. So that's how I made it to fullback. It definitely wasn't a plan. Definitely was not in my plans to be playing fullback. But you make the best of what you got, and that's what's got me here so far.
Well, then, I mean, you're for sure just a football player. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's like the essence of the position, I think. Going back to college, though, when they kind of came to you and told you, hey, we're moving you from safety to backer, and then from backer to running back. I mean, I know a lot of guys that would get super discouraged about that stuff, and it's hard. It's not easy to change in positions, especially in college. I mean, it's not like college is an easy game either. How did you take that on, and was that a hard kind of deal to go through, switching all positions all the time? Like how did that question your loyalty, maybe even to the program and into football itself?
Yeah, man, it was definitely tough because I really every year I was just like, okay, I got a year under my belt, especially at linebackers. I got a year under my belt. I'm gonna learn the playbook even more. I'm gonna get more comfortable, and then boom, I'm moving. So I was just always just kind of like, damn, man, when am I gonna get to settle in and stack some years? But it was always for me, man. If I saw myself getting on the field, it was always I was always cool with it. And I played running back in high school. And when I was growing up, that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a running back. So it really wasn't like we're moving you to tight end or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got you.
You know what I mean? But it never really was like, hey, we're moving you to something that's completely foreign. And then even linebacker, when I first got to school, there were some older dudes or some old linemen that was like, "You play safety?" Because I was bigger, and I was
Right.
like, yeah, I play safety. And it's like, yeah, he told me, he's like, yeah, you're gonna be playing linebacker. And my coach had said some things like when I first got there, I was playing nickel, and we were in there. I'm getting in my stance, and I got my hands down, swaggy, whatever, trying to look cool. He was like, man, it's Coach Mason. He was like, man, if you don't get your hands up, I'm gonna move your big ass to linebacker. Hands to get ready to strike. And so, I mean, he did what he said. He moved me to linebacker. But I mean, I kind of like saw it coming too, just because we had older safeties.
Sure.
And then I was just getting so like my body just took me to, before I knew it, I was like 6'1", 225. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, if you don't want bigger safeties like that, I can still run and everything, but
Right.
it
Yeah,
just
no,
how it happened. So, it was tough for like, maybe that spring.
sure.
But after you get used to it, you're like, oh, okay, I can do this. And then you find people to pattern your game after. Like
Mhm.
then you do fine. There was a linebacker from Ohio State, and then he went to the Steelers. He was a smaller, faster guy, Ryan Shazier. So when they
Yeah.
moved me to linebacker, I'm like, all right, bet. I'm gonna watch his stuff, learn how to play like him. Like he's similar size, similar speed, all that type of stuff. And then when I moved to running back, I already knew I was like a bigger running back. So I started looking at like Jordan Howard and just other guys like that, like bigger running backs who had made it in the league and had some success in their careers. So I just always looked at somebody and was like, okay, I'm gonna pattern my game after that until I figure out who I am. And so that's really how it went, man. And it was difficult at first, but it really wasn't that bad.
So then talk about how, now when you get to the NFL and you kind of transition, more to when we're in 21 personnel and you're the fullback lead blocking and all those things, you're going head to head against some of these linebackers and these downhill safeties in the league. What are some of the nuances of the position that you had to learn and some of the things that you had to adjust coming from college and really kind of being new to the position?
Man, really, so it's not just about like physicality and being strong. Like that's a big part of it, but like it's really like how you strike. Like there's a big technique to like getting your foot in the ground, being same foot, same shoulder. You know all of
Same
that.
foot, same shoulder. Yeah,
So
yeah.
like it's different. Like when you're running with the ball in your hand, you can just run and get low. And it's just a little bit of the same, like same foot, same shoulder there. But it's a completely different thing when you're blocking a guy and you got to leverage. And so early on, when I'm going to block and I'm thinking about my leverage, I'm measuring. So like I'm pitter pattering my feet
Mhm.
trying to get it right. So you just learn over time, like just what that footwork looks like, what the I guess the rhythm feels like right before you're about to hit somebody. And you don't always get it right. Sometimes you get got. Hell, this is the league. But
Yeah, I even noticed that, like, I mean, there's been a few times, like, just this past game where because obviously you were down, like, I had to go do some fullback stuff from the backfield, and it's a completely different deal when you're coming out of the backfield and have to match a guy's speed and space, and, you wanna lay the wood on him, but you can't get juked out by him, and you have to have a good relationship still between you and the running back and you and the line of scrimmage, and, like, whoever if there's a guard or tackle pulling, like, you gotta take that into account as well, so it's definitely not easy. It's definitely
yeah,
not an easy job.
no, it's not. And then you got to sift through the BS. Like some guy misses a block, right? You got
Yeah,
to
yeah.
right. So you got to have good eyes. You got to read it like the runner, but you also got to be malleable to like when something happens, you got to be there to get it started. So there's been
Mhm.
times where I've end up on D lineman, and you just got to try to
Just
get
gotta
it started.
take it. You
Yeah.
just
So
gotta
like,
take it.
yeah, man. So yeah, man. It's not what everybody thinks it is. They think it's just run full speed into the guys. Like, nah, it's a technique and it's a real craft. And for those who do it, they know. I've heard Alec and CJ talk a lot about it recently.
Mhm.
But it's a real craft, man. It's a real craft, and you got to know angles, you got to know blocking schemes, you got to know all of that. So that was really the big thing, just learning all of that and having to just put it together. And like as I was getting into it, like put it together while taking my lumps. Because when I first got in, I was like 230
Oh,
doing this.
wow.
I was like
Yeah.
230, man. So going up against guys like Eric Kendricks and Anthony Barr in practice and some of those other linebackers that were on that team, it was, you gotta you really learn. And they threw me into
Yeah.
the but it helped me though. It helped me a lot. It helped me a lot.
So talk about also, like, with your position, I think with my position as well at tight end, the running back room, the importance of being able to play on special teams, especially for a guy who might not be, I know for my room, like if you're not, the clear cut one guy, like you got to be able to perform on teams. How did you make that transition in the NFL? Because I think the teams in the NFL is completely different from what you do in college. I think you're playing a completely different game. So talk about like the teams unit, how that all works, and how you've really carved a role in that as well in the league.
Yeah, man, it is completely different. It's a whole different phase. But I had the privilege of having some really good special teams coaches in college. And actually, the first thing that Coach Mason told me when I was getting recruited was like, "Hey, you're not going to be the number 1 or 2 guy when you get here, so you're gonna have to cut your teeth on special teams." So I already had that in my mind, like 4 years of being a 4-core player on special teams in college. Like I already knew as a fullback, you could be the one guy, you still got to play all 4.
For sure. Yeah.
Because, in some offenses, you might only be getting 10, 20% of the snaps on offense. So you still got to have that special teams. So, man, just really trying to go out there and just really the thing about playing special teams is just you got to play hard and fast. You got to play hard and fast and know your job at all times. And like we said before, you're going to take some lumps because it's the league, but you just got to go out there and try to make a play,
For sure.
Be where you're supposed to be, make the tackles you're supposed to make, protect on punt, because that's the most important one, really, is the punt. And then just learning how to do that. Never kick slided a day before or kick slid, whatever you say, before I got to the league. So just learning how to do all of that, man. But it's been huge, man. That's you know more than anybody. Like it's a big thing. It's just about being valuable. So if you're not valuable in those 4 teams or those 3 teams, whatever you play, you might as well just put the next linebacker in there or the next tight end or the next receiver or whatever body can do that job. So yeah, man, it's been huge. That's been a big part of my career. And so hoping to still be providing value in those ways too.
It's the more you can do, you know what I mean? So what are your thoughts then on the new kickoff rule and all that stuff? What have you been seeing so far from it? Do you have any qualms about it? Like what have been your thoughts so far through the first 3 weeks?
I think it's gonna take some getting used to, man. Like when you're doing kickoff in the way that we used to do it, it's a big advantage for guys who run and hit, right? You can run, hit, hat in hands, displace a guy, go make a tackle. This is a little bit different because depending on the matchup, you gotta, long arm, use your hat in hands, or run around the guy, and everything's happening so fast. Fast. Like, so I don't know how I feel about it yet. I don't know how. My first instinct was to not like it, but we'll see how it continues to play out from a kickoff return standpoint. Though, I think I like the old kickoff a little bit better.
I'm kind of with you too. I feel like I get what the intent was to obviously like from a safety perspective, and they obviously want to get more kickoff returns going. But I don't have the numbers on it. But I would be curious to see how many return kicks we're actually getting, because I even felt like the other day a lot of teams are just still taking the touchback.
Yeah.
And then with the new rule, like I quite frankly, when they bring it out, is it really that much safer? It actually seems more crazy because you got the guy who's running the ball running full speed and everyone else is kind of coming from a stagnant point. So
and then if
it's definitely very interesting.
If 1 or 2 guys misses, it's the returner and those 2 or 3 guys. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so I've still seen some big hits on it. So I mean,
me too, man. Me too. I think it's been crazy. I think it's been crazy. So that's where I think they kind of missed on the intent of it, like the safety precaution. And who knows? Maybe the numbers are actually down in terms of head injuries on it, but I just feel like, man, I've seen some crazy hits already the first couple of weeks when kicks do actually get return out. And we're getting the numbers here. Only 33% of kickoffs were returned in week 1. So I'm sure that's not the number that they were hoping for.
Right. And it's probably not that much different from last year, because I think I saw a tweet somewhere where it's like it's relatively close. So, but I mean, hey, we'll see as the year goes on, because when it gets colder,
right,
the ball doesn't fly.
Doesn't go as far. Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But right now, I like the old way. But change is hard too, especially when you got used to a couple of positions on a kickoff return or on a kickoff, and now you got to do something new. It's tough, you know.
Yeah, I do. I definitely think it's better than taking that play out of the game. I do think we need that play in, and I like we were talking about. Like a lot of guys depend their livelihoods on the special teams unit, and it plays a huge part in these games. So I don't think that it's something that you just can get rid of. Obviously, they're working through the rules in terms of how to manage it so guys are safe. But I agree. I think there's definitely a feel out process with it right now, and I guess we'll see where it goes as the season continues.
Yeah, man.
Um,
We'll see.
while me and you are kind of PA guys too, so I want to kind of hit on some topics before you go. Just for so one, we'll start with the NFL offseason program. Wanted to see like what your thoughts on were currently, maybe where just in your opinion on what you would want. You know, I've said I think it should be where we don't go back until closer to camp, and then it's a ramp up into camp. But I know there's a lot of differing opinions out there. Just wanted to see what your perspective on it was, and if you had any thoughts about the offseason program.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, man. I think the ramp up in the camp, go back at the latest time possible, and then ramp up in the camp those 2-3 weeks. I think that's the best for the game. If you look at what happened during COVID, that's what we did. There was no preseason. I'm not saying no preseason. You got to have that, or the coaches believe you got to have that. But if you look at that COVID stuff or the COVID way we did things, guys were less injured. Guys, the quality of the game didn't go down. So I don't really see a reason for like us to have to come in for like 3-4 months during the off season and split up our training. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I train really well back at home. Shout out to my trainer,
Same.
Jerry. You know what I mean? I train really well. And you know, it's not as much football, but I'm on year 6, man. I need my body to be in the best shape possible.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's hard. I mean, at times it feels like we're doing this, you know, year round, really, because you end in a lot of teams, and you know, obviously in late January, and then if you're in the Super Bowl, you end in early February, and you get a couple months, and it's April, and you're back at it, going from April to mid June. You get a couple, you know, you get that month off, and then you go back into training camp. So, you know, I think it'd be nice for guys, and I'm not saying we have to get rid of the OTA period entirely. I'm just saying maybe just shift it over so it kind of lines up with the season, so you don't have that weird break in between. And I think that's better for guys, and I'm speaking for players here that, you know, have families elsewhere that, you know, or for us, like, you know, you might not be from the Chicago area and your family's living, you know, in Miami or in Atlanta or in LA, and they're spending their time out there because they're in school or whatever it might be. And I think it'd just be better, you know, maybe if we're, you know, you're home for the February, March, April, May, June, and then, you know, when it's time to come back to work, you come back to work. So
yeah, that would be amazing. Like you said, for guys with family, I got a daughter, I got a wife. I don't live in Chicago, so like it really is tough because every offseason I'm in Chicago for 3-4 days, and then I'm back at home for the weekend, and I come back. I do that every weekend. So I mean, it would make more sense if you could just have your whole regimen. Know that you got 4 or 5 months. Stay away from the building, because when we're here, just like you know, dog, we're in the building every day. Tuesdays are off day. But we're in the building. Like
I just saw you this morning.
Everybody
in there.
is in the building. So it's really no days off for what, 5-6 months, 6 or 7 maybe. So it just makes sense, and I hope they do the right thing and at least give us a chance to try it this next offseason.
For sure. Okay, well, last thing, and then I'll let you go. But thoughts on potentially them adding an 18th game, and what if that were to happen? What would be your possible schedule that you'd want to see in season wise if an 18th game was added?
If they add an 18th game, damn near got to take out one of the Thursday games and add an extra bye week. You know, because you know how those short weeks can be. Those are great when you get that. When you get
the back end of it's nice,
the back end of it is great, but just that lead up to it, and asking guys to do that twice, or maybe even a third time with an 18th game would be tough. And you probably got to add in an extra bye week. If you do 18 games, you gotta break the season up into 3 different parts. Give guys.
Yeah, I saw like a little mock up of one where there was an 18th game. I forget who I was talking with this about, but where they added the 18th game. and there were still Thursday games, but under this structure with the bye week included, no one would ever play on a short week again. And I was like, okay, that's pretty good. Like, because that way the NFL still gets their Thursday night game. They get their, obviously, the Sunday slate. They get the Monday slate. And so they're still getting those days of the week, but players don't have to, do the, quick
Sunday
turnaround
to
from Sunday
Thursday.
to Thursday. You know what I mean? So I
So
thought
what
that
was
was
it, coming off of a bye week into a Thursday? Is that what it was?
something. However it worked out, I think it was you would play coming off a bye week, whether it's into a Thursday or it turned out where you would never play on a short week, as we know it right now, which I thought was interesting. So
Yeah. No, they would definitely have to make that work then if they kept the Thursdays, and then probably take out some of those preseason games, man. Because
yeah, for sure. I think that's if you're gonna add an 18th game, you got to take out one of the preseason games, and maybe even you cut camp by a week or whatever it is. And I know there's been talks about making sure everybody reports at the same time. So whether you're playing in the Hall of Fame game or you play that first Thursday game of the season, you're not reporting 5 or 6 days before the next team. So
yeah, I
all,
mean
all
that
things that you
game
can consider.
is tough, man.
Oh my! How long was that camp? That was a long camp.
It was a long camp, bro. It was
Yeah.
like you said, the never ending camp, but it was
It was.
a long camp. It was the longest I've been a part of. I feel like.
Yeah,
I've
for
never
sure.
done a Hall of Fame game, but if we do 18 games, they're definitely gonna have to take out some of that preseason.
Absolutely.
They're gonna have to give us a lot of sugar for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, my man. This was a good talk, good perspective on the fullback stuff, and some PA things as well with the offseason program and the possible 18th game deal. But I appreciate you coming on, and I'll see you tomorrow at practice.
All right, bro. See you, man. Appreciate you for
All
having
right,
me.
appreciate you.
The 85 of Cole Kmet is presented by Ankin Law. Howard Ankin is a third-generation lawyer in Chicago and has built one of the largest injury law firms in the state. Howard Ankin is a member of the Illinois State Bar Association, the Illinois Trial Lawyers Association, the American Association for Justice in Washington, D.C., and president of the UIC Law Alumni Association. Ankin Law has over 90 attorneys and staff based in Chicago with offices right off of Dearborn in Chicago, as well as in Rosemont, Schaumburg, and Orland Park. The leading filer of workers' compensation and personal injury cases in Illinois, Ankin Law practices areas such as auto, truck, and rideshare accidents, slip and fall, premises liability, workers' comp, medical malpractice, social security disability, and wrongful death cases. When it comes to our commercials, the Ankin Law brand has been aligned with Chicago sports for over a decade. We especially like to associate ourselves with Chicago athletes long associated with Chicago or from Chicagoland, such as Io DeSumo, Nikki Lopez, and Chris Chelios. With an intake department of 16 people, including 2 attorneys, Ankin Law takes the time to listen to the people who contact us. Even if we don't sign the case, we try to steer the people who contact us in the right direction to get the help they need. After all, Ankin Law is injury law made personal. They're here to help. Visit ankinlaw.com to learn more. And the 85 is also brought to you by Circa Sportsbook. Whether it's pro or college, the app to bet football is Circa Sports Illinois. Circa Sports, it's sports betting the way it should be. Circa Sports Illinois has high betting limits, low holds, and exceptional customer service. Bet on all your favorite teams in every game this season. Spreads, props, futures, or in-game. Circa Sports has it. Fund and bet like a pro from anywhere, anytime in Illinois. Download your new bookie today at circasports.com. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, it is that time, Cole, to turn the page to Week 4 and the Los Angeles Rams, who seemingly have a ton of injuries, and they just don't care because they took care of business with a pretty impressive comeback against the 49ers last weekend.
Yeah, that was a crazy game to see the highlights of them coming back like that. But that just speaks to the NFL and what the NFL is. And, if you're within a couple scores, even late in the game, it's very easy to come back with the type of players that are in this league. So obviously a really big win for them there against the 49ers. And, looking to them this week, obviously they're pretty banged up and, they got some guys out, which obviously is a good thing for us, but a talented team and obviously a really good head coach, a proven head coach, and a very good quarterback. And whenever you have that type of combination, you're going to be in any type of game. So really good football team coming into town, and a team that that we're obviously not going to be taking very lightly here. So we're looking forward to it. We got to be better in our regard with some things and making some corrections. I think a big thing for us and what we're talking about this week is that turnover battle and that turnover margin. And, you look back to week 1 and we win that turnover margin, we win the game. In the past 2 weeks, we haven't won that turnover margin and we've lost both games. So that turnover margin will be big, along with limiting the explosives on defense and getting some explosives offensively in the pass and run game. So I think those will be kind of the two things there between the turnovers and the explosive plays that'll kind of help us lead to victory here.
And those are the keys to the game presented by Circa Sports. Download the Circa Sports Illinois app at circasports.com/Illinois-app. You got any connections to anybody on the Rams? I'm trying to scan. I haven't gotten that far in my prep this week, but I'm trying to think.
Kyron Williams, Notre Dame product.
That's right.
He's done very well. He looks awesome. He did that flip in the end zone the other week. That was super cool. He's a great player to watch. He's so much fun.
Believe it or not, my wife had some. She kind of critiqued that flip, and she thought Kyron should have landed, stuck the landing though.
Really? Oh, that's pretty funny. I'll have to tell Kyron that when I see him on Sunday.
She was like, why couldn't he? And I'm like, well, I think that's a lot harder than it looks, especially for a football player in the moment. But I will admit it would have looked even cooler, if he
had stuck it. For sure. Yeah, that would have been cool. Still, I thought it was still a pretty sweet clip of him going in the end zone like that. So I thought that was cool to see. But yeah, Kyron's he's a great player, and he's really been pretty electric for their offense. And I know they've done a lot of things to get him involved, but I know how everyone looked at him when he was at Notre Dame, and obviously doing really big things in the league right now. So it's been fun to follow him in his career so far.
Yeah, he kind of seemed to have snuck up on people a little here in the NFL, but obviously knowing him from Notre Dame doesn't sound like you're surprised at all.
No, I mean, in terms of who he is as a person, work ethic wise, just that type of guy that you want in your building. So from that perspective, he checked all the boxes. I know that maybe there was some question marks in terms about his breakaway speed and all that, but his game speed is so fast and he's so quick twitched, and he's got a great feel for the game. So I think all those things obviously supersede that. And I know everyone gets into the 40 times of guys and whatever, but hey, if you can't run that 40 time in the game, it doesn't really matter too much. So, but Kyron's a guy that whatever his 40 is, he's running that in the game, and maybe even faster. And again, just been super fun to follow so far.
And I know you're on the other side of the ball, but is there anything about Matthew Stafford you come to appreciate? Because you guys have faced 3 young quarterbacks so far, and that'll be one big difference for your defense this week going up against. He might not have all his weapons, but it's Matthew Stafford, and he obviously, from a veteran quarterback perspective, is going to have all that knowledge, and it's just a totally different challenge.
Yeah, well, I think starting with him, I think he's always been severely underrated throughout his whole career. And I know him being back when he was back here in Detroit, obviously with Aaron Rodgers being in his heyday for most of the time while he was here, but he's a super tough dude. And I think any of the clips you see from that throughout his career, teammates are really, drawn towards him as a person. And you can see that in the way that the guys play for him. Super savvy. He was kind of the start of that no look stuff. If you really look back into it, he was the guy doing the no look passes, and obviously just an insane arm talent. He's a Georgia guy, right? Coming out of Georgia. But obviously super talented and Super Bowl winner and all those things. And again, if you have that type of quarterback, you're going to be in every game, and he's that leader for their team. And I know the guys on defense are chopping at the bit for a good challenge this week.
All right, well, be good to be back at home at Soldier Field, and should be a good game against the Rams this week. We will wrap up the show as we usually do with a question you might have for me.
Yeah. Okay. I'm curious to see what your thoughts are on this. Just going back to the game this past weekend, did you think that ball was blocked on the punt?
Ooh. So I actually tweeted about this in the middle of the game because it was really hard to tell in the angles they were showing live. And obviously they challenged that, which was a smart challenge because it would have negated the penalty. Ultimately, I decided it couldn't have been because it was still a 62-yard punt. And I was like, if that was tipped and still went 62 yards, then the Bears really do have a god punter, which maybe it was. Did you guys make a determination on that?
We were in the huddle, and it took a while because it felt like there was a big break with somebody got injured, I think, or someone was down, and then the challenge flag came out. So then it was like a whole nother couple minutes of waiting to see that. But I initially thought no way he touched it, and then they started showing some angles on the big screen in Lucas Oil, and you could kind of see his finger like snap back a little bit. And I was like, wow, did he really get that? But it didn't look like the ball rotation changed at all. So I didn't know if it was like a momentum thing with his hand coming down and how his fingers were moving back. But like, again, I didn't think there obviously not enough dispute or whatever the term they use, evidence to overturn the play. So, stayed in our favor there. But I did think that one was very close.
I will say from a schematic standpoint on a pump block, I mean, it's not surprising to see pressure come when you're backed up in your own end zone. But that particular block the Colts ran to kind of like, it's basically like blitzing your linebacker through the A gap.
Mm-hmm.
To do that and have him dive is extremely risky. Because when you're coming through those A gaps on a pump block, like you ideally want to run more like past the punter and just sort of show your hands to the side. Because
Sure.
If you leave your feet like that and you don't get the ball, like you're basically selling out on it. And if
you're selling out for the block.
You really don't get it. There's a good chance you're roughing the punter and giving up a first down. So that's extremely risky play for them to run. So I'm not surprised that they challenged it if there was any chance at all that he tipped it.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. But that was a crazy play. And I could have went either, like trying to be objective as I could about it. I think after the fact, I was like, oh, that really could have gone either way.
I just 62 yards and it got tipped. I find it hard to believe,
no way.
But
no way.
We'll have to ask Tori in the locker room this week. What they decided on that one. Impressive nonetheless. All right. Well, Cole, great show here. Want to make sure everyone remembers, go check out the 85 collection. And I can't remember if we mentioned it off the top, but a portion of those proceeds going to Special Olympics at Illinois too. So another great reason to check out all that merch.
Yeah, portions of the proceeds going to Special Olympics Illinois, so we appreciate that continued support. Again, thank you guys for tuning in. It's been a lot of fun for me. Keep the subscribers flowing, tell friends, all those type of stuff. Try to bring you guys good content despite the result the other week, and hopefully you guys enjoyed maybe some of the input I was able to provide there. We're looking forward to LA this week, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
And the 85 is powered by Ankin Law, injury law made personal. They're here to help. Visit ankinlaw.com to learn more.